Yeah. All right. Well, this is the exciting part where we get to talk about the college football season that's already week 0 has already happened.
Yeah.
Um, and there's some pretty decent games to start out. Namely, we watched Nebraska Northwestern, which was a pretty good game, but it shouldn't have been. It was an upset by
Yep.
all accounts. A lot of people expected Scott Frost and the Nebraska Huskers to kind of take off this year, but it did not happen. So I kind of wanted to start out with just kind of picking, you know, your picks for the college football playoff. Like, what are you anticipating there?
Yeah, I mean, right now nothing is leading me to think it's going to be more, any different than the bloods that are always there, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and take the biased pick and talk Michigan up like they might be back, and they have every chance to be back. I actually think this team could be even better than the last year's team, but right
Mm-hmm.
now, I'm going to take Alabama, Georgia, Ohio State, and Clemson. That's what I'm going to take. Clemson is the biggest
Question mark.
question
Yeah.
mark.
You picked the three.
I
The first three were the ones that I had.
I
So
don't like Clemson. Clemson could very easily go undefeated, or they could also go like 8-4 this year. I wouldn't like to me. They're a question mark there, but I'm expecting a bounce back. I think they'll figure it out. They have recruited well enough, and they're very talented. Um, so I think they could definitely make a run there. So
do I trust the new coaching staff in Notre Dame? Notre Dame's got some dudes this year.
Notre Dame is
Uh,
going to get waxed in week 1. Absolutely. I think they're going to lose by like 20 points at least.
yeah.
I have no faith. I
I,
think they
I
got
so
some
I,
dudes too. I have no faith. They're starting a new quarterback. I have no faith.
Well, that's the big question mark. I mean, they've got, three guys on that offensive line this year. They're similar to Michigan with one of the best offensive lines this year. I think most people had them ranked as probably the second best offensive line.
Yeah.
But then, they don't have they have Michael Meyer at a tight end.
Mm-hmm.
But then defensively, Brandon Joseph, Isaiah Foskey. They've got a couple playmakers on defense too, where it's like
My problem with Notre Dame is if they don't play Ohio State close, I don't think anybody's gonna want them in the playoff. You know what I mean? Like just being independent, not playing a conference, not having a conference championship. I don't like if they beat Ohio State, absolutely. Then I think, that's gonna open eyes. But if they don't at least play them very close, then I just don't see if it goes how I think it's going to go, where it's going to be like a 42-20 game, then I don't see them having a chance to come back from that. They could go 11-1, and it's still going to go. They got waxed by Ohio State. You know what I mean? They don't play anybody else other than that, probably USC at the end, and they're a question mark too. So
do I biasly want to put Michigan in? I want to have a different number 4 than you because I kind of had
I
Clemson,
would
Notre
love to
Dame.
put Michigan and Ohio State in the playoff. That would be, and that's
It just doesn't. I don't see any way that happens because they play each other at the end.
right. And if they both go 11-0, I guess, in convincing fashion, and then chips fall otherwise. But if they both go 11-0 and go into Columbus 11-0, they'll be probably 1-2 or 2-3 or 1-3 or something like that. And I mean, the only way that happens is if it's like a 2 overtime game or something. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
and other teams would have to lose. You know what I mean? I would think there could only be like one SEC team make it then, and the Baylor's got a chance to be up there.
Baylor's got like their defensive line is one of the best. Their offensive line's like top 3. Defensive line's top
Miranda's
3.
got that thing going. The problem is Michigan just wouldn't be able to, much like 2016 when they were arguably one of the best 4 teams still, even after that losing to Ohio State there. They already had a loss when they lost to Ohio State, so that's really what knocked them out. But much like that, they're not going to be able to play in a conference championship the next week.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the problem if they lose to Ohio State, even if they were 11-0 going in. I don't know. I think it's possible, but I just don't see 2 Big Ten teams making it ever. The way it's set up right now.
That's why I think you're probably wise to take Clemson. I think Clemson by far is the best defensive line in the country, and maybe front 7. I think their linebackers are probably pretty good too.
Mm-hmm.
But Yeah, that's why, we talk about Notre Dame, but like Notre Dame and Clemson to me are the only one of those team. Texas A&M, maybe I've heard some things
Yeah,
about
I mean
rumblings about
A&M's
Texas
got a
A&M.
lot of hype. I just think they're a year or two away because they're. I mean, all their really good high level recruits around this past year, they're all going to be freshmen. I just don't see that really turning around as quickly. I think they've got a lot of hype. Some people have USC as a dark horse team, but I just see that as Lincoln Riley's got a lot to fix, and he's trying to do it all with transfers, and it could happen. But that's tough in 1 year. I expect them to be a top 25 team, but I don't know about a top 4 team.
Yeah, I it's going to be an interesting spot for the fourth spot, but I think like you said, it almost seems unanimous. And Michigan, they won obviously pretty good last year, but like going back to the horseshoe and having to play Ohio State this year in Columbus, it's
I mean,
tough.
I would like. I mean, I can't right now. If they played, here's my take. If they played week 1, I think Michigan would win. If they played each other week 1, Michigan would win. I think they're going to be farther along and everything. Ohio State's defense probably isn't going to be very good early on. I think they'll be carried by their offense. So I think Michigan would win. But by the time they come around in week 12 or 13 or 14 or whatever it is, like both teams are going to be a lot different, right? And maybe by then, like maybe we'll be saying Michigan's the best team too, a better team by then too. You never know. Um, but even last year going into the game, I don't think either. I don't really remember. We'd have to look at it. I don't think either of us picked Michigan to win. I think we thought they could keep it close.
I think we had Michigan finish in the top 3 in the Big Ten. I think we were pretty unanimous on that. I'd have to go back and listen, but
Yeah, and
um,
I was pretty high on them. I
I think
think.
I had them at a 10-2, a record from my
Yep.
memory.
Yep. I
So,
think I had them at 10-2.
but
And
they outlasted that too. I mean, and
sure.
they're so close to literally being undefeated with a screwy game in Michigan State. Like so.
Right. Right. But I think even going into the Ohio State game, I don't think we picked Michigan to win that game either. I mean, we
Mm.
talked to Dallas a couple weeks before that, and I remember our questions were, can they even hang with them? You know, so they did shock the world a little bit there, but I don't know if the question is, was it a fluke or was it just kind of everything came together? I don't think it was necessarily a fluke, but I just don't know if it's going to happen again. Ohio State will certainly make adjustments. So
Mhm. Yeah, it's the SEC is loaded this year. I'm looking through this magazine. I mean, Texas A&M is ranked 5. Alabama's 1, Georgia's 3. Then their
yep,
next team is 13th. They have Arkansas 13th in the country, and
yep,
Ole Miss at 17. It's like so they're going to be loaded in the top 20. I mean, Kentucky at 24 is also an interesting one, but I think Levis is expected to have a really good year.
yeah,
But yeah, the Big Ten to me, it's going to be Big Ten and SEC, and that's going to be how it's going to pan out in the future as we're seeing teams join these divisions.
yep,
So it's going to be interesting how everything kind of shakes out once these teams are locked into those conferences.
yep.
But I guess let's try to focus a little bit here on who's your Heisman candidate.
I guess what do they do? Top 3 now, so I'll go 3 or 4 here. I will. I mean, Bryce Young's the incumbent, so I think you got to start there. The problem with being the incumbent and being like a quarterback is you pretty much got to do better than you did last year, and last year was pretty absurd to win it again, or at least as good, which is really hard.
Yeah, Archie Griffin's still the only one to do it. So
right, exactly. But it wouldn't surprise me at all. He's going to be in a lot of big games against a lot of good teams, and so he'll get his chances. It's hard to do. So we'll start with Bryce Young. From there, I think C.J. Stroud needs to be up there for Ohio State. He was up there last year, so he certainly needs to be considered. I think he is the favorite right now.
he is the favorite. Yeah.
And then after that, Caleb Williams at USC, I think needs to be a consideration.
I think they're going to put a defensive player in there. I think it's going to be Will Anderson.
And then Will Anderson, if you're going to put a defensive player in there, it'll be Will Anderson. The defensive player is not going to win the Heisman, though. I mean, just
I think he's really, and I think Anderson's probably the only one that I could think of in the top 15 players to be in this year.
Sure. There's a couple other. I mean,
John Robinson's another one that comes.
John
to mind.
Robinson's probably the best running back in the country, at least from a physical standpoint. So I think he's got a great.
Travion Henderson's getting some
I think
shout.
Is it Braylon Addison for USC? Well, he transferred.
Oh, Braylon Allen for Wisconsin.
Yep.
Yeah.
Addison, the receiver for USC, I think. Has a good chance. He transferred from Pitt, and he was the Bolitnikoff Award winner. Now he gets to play with Caleb.
Was that
Williams.
Jordan Addison?
Yeah, Jordan Addison. Yep.
Yeah.
So, we'll see. I mean, I think he has a chance as more of a dark horse guy.
Ayugalele bounce back?
No.
No.
Quinn
Ewers?
I mean, no. Texas is not back, man. Texas is not back until they prove to me they are.
Spencer Rattler?
No.
Yeah.
South Carolina? No.
It's an interesting year to watch quarterbacks, though. Because the Lions, especially if Goff goes down, they're immediately in the market.
There's some names.
Some people say there's up to 25 quarterbacks in a preseason that could get a first round grade. So this may be one of the best.
After a crappy class last year, this is going to be a better class. I know already it's got to be a better class. I mean, just the top end is already far and away better than anything from last year.
Right. Dylan Gabriel, Keaton Slovis, Tyler Van Dyke.
Yep.
Anthony Richardson out of Florida.
Yep.
So
Dylan Gabriel transferred to Oklahoma, so he's gonna, they're gonna throw the ball around. So it's interesting.
I think Jackson Dart, Ole Miss. Like there's some pretty solid names out there, man. I mean, Dart's isn't eligible, I don't think, for this year anyway, and either is Ayugalele. But it'll be like obviously, Stroud, Young, Spencer Rattler, Tyler Van Dyke, Slovis, Gabriel. These are all names that will be eligible. So it could be interesting to see how that kind of pans out. But I think, I'm taking a quarterback, and I think I think it's going to be based on this season probably panning out with Ohio State going to go undefeated. I'm assuming a win right now against Michigan and Columbus. So I think with just that undefeated season, I think Stroud's going to win.
Their receiving room is so stacked again. I know they had.
And it's like, how? You lost 3 dudes.
Right. But, Jackson Smith and Jigba's back, and he's probably the best of their receivers last year in all actuality. They're still loaded. Marvin Harrison Jr. is back. They've got some dudes still. So I think they're going to be completely fine. He's going to be better. So he's going to put up some big numbers. He's probably going to put up insane numbers. So.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's focus on the Big Ten then here. Let's see how I want to figure this out. Let's start
in the West.
Okay, we'll start in the West. Who do you have winning the West right now?
Right now, man, the West is always so interesting to me. If you would have asked me before week 0, I really would have considered Nebraska to have a chance. I really would have. They no, but not anymore. I'm sorry. I am actually going to go. I'm going to go with Purdue.
I love the hot take.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Purdue.
Dude, bank this. I'm like, snip this out. I have to remind myself.
I think Braum has got this thing figured out a little bit. I think Aiden O'Connell, and we can rank quarterbacks later. But I think Aiden O'Connell might be the second best quarterback in the Big Ten beyond Stroud.
The O-line is concerning most. The O-line's what's
concerning, but I think they'll scheme up ways to get around that. They've got some good receivers. They got a couple good backs. Their defense is going to fly around and hit you. I mean, it's probably going to bite me in the rear end. They're probably going to go like 7-5 or 8-4 again. But I like Purdue. I like Purdue this year. So
8-4 might actually battle it out before they all beat.
They might have a chance. They might have a chance.
Yeah, 8-4 is not outside necessarily, but
there's like 5 teams in the West though that I could legitimately convince myself could win the conference.
I know it's hard to say now with Nebraska though. It's like, ooh, after that, it's like,
right.
The clock's ticking on Scott Frost's career now.
Yeah.
It's already been ticking actually.
His
When I was that
his
first visit,
buyout, I saw something in his contract. His buyout like gets cut in half on October 15th. I think they're just gonna fire him that day.
yeah, that adds up. I
I
don't.
mean,
He has
obviously,
to
unless
have.
he like wins every game going out here. I mean,
Yeah,
I think
I don't.
it's
But Aiden O'Connell's. I mean, he's going to be a huge reason for Purdue's success. He's 6 years. He's back for his sixth season.
traditionally Purdue is very good when they have excellent quarterbacks. So you go
Mhm.
back to Drew Brees,
David Blau.
David Blau. They had some good. I mean, they killed
They beat
Ohio
Ohio
State that
State.
year.
Yeah.
Yeah, they destroyed them.
Mhm.
When they get good quarterback play and just traditionally Purdue is good, and I think they're going to have good quarterback play. So
And I'm looking at some of like the Big Ten, the all Big Ten teams and stuff, and
yeah,
Purdue's got a couple guys on defense too to watch out, like Jalen Graham and Corey Trice.
yep. They got to
Brown.
replace George Karlaftis, obviously, but I think they're still going to be good.
Yeah, and Mitchell Finneran is ranked as the number 2 kicker in the Big Ten, so there's something. Branson Dean. So yeah, they've got names. I actually think it seems like with the West, it's almost like death taxes in Wisconsin.
Yeah, well,
And
or Iowa, but
yeah, I was always up there too. I think I'm probably gonna take Wisconsin again, and I'm probably gonna is Graham Mertz finally gonna become a star? I thought he was the real deal when he was a freshman already.
yeah,
But yeah, as long as Jim Leonard's calling the defense, good things will happen.
yeah. I think they should win the West. I just am not convinced Graham Mertz is going to be the guy. Is going to be a guy, right? That can kind of get them over the hump against some good teams. And I think they need to diversify their offense to a point. Like I know, yeah, traditional Wisconsin football is just running. You know, they're going to run it down your throat, and I think there's nothing wrong with that, especially in their division in the West. But they've got to do something else. You know, when they were really, really good, obviously they had Russell Wilson, right? And they could do other things, right? And they could be diverse and they could do all these different things. But ever since then, they've had some decent teams, certainly, but they haven't been able to they're kind of a one-trick pony. And that's what they've been the last couple of years, and they've got to be able to figure it out a little bit because that defense was every bit as good as some of the best. I mean, Georgia was probably the only defense better than that defense last year.
Right.
Georgia had generational talent on that defense. I mean, first round draft picks all over that defense. So I don't know.
There's really no offensive weapon outside of Braylon Allen for Wisconsin.
Right. And they're gonna have good tailbacks.
Yeah.
They're gonna have a good offensive line, right? But can Graham Mertz be a really good quarterback? And I think, he's shown flashes, certainly. Especially early on and even in stretches of certain games. I mean, there was the end of the first half against Michigan last year. He looked like an NFL quarterback for like 10 minutes. And it was like, what happened here? And then he got killed and knocked out of the game. But I don't know. I'm looking at the West Division and I legitimately like things about every single team here. Like I can't sit here and go, and this tells me like Big Ten is kind of on the come up a little bit. Like there are good things I can say about every single team. Like Northwestern, I love their offensive line, and I love a couple of their teams.
I think Illinois is still like a 2-3 win team, but I think outside of that,
Illinois is better than that. I think Illinois is better than that. I mean, they already have one win. They already have one win.
It's true,
right? I think they're better than that. Brett Bielema is going to get them to 5 or 6, 7 wins. I think he could easily do it. Because they can run the football, and they're Tommy DeVito's.
But Bielema's already got 2 offensive coordinators in his very short time there.
But they're just going to run the ball. They'll be fine. I like their offensive line, and I like some of their pieces on defense. Their defense is going to get torched by good teams, but I think they've got some guys. I like Williams, the receiver, is really dynamic, so I can get behind some of the Illinois stuff. Iowa is Iowa. They're going to. Every 3 years, they'll win 10 or 11 games, and then they'll go 8-4 otherwise. So that's just how they operate.
That's how Kirk Ferentz likes to do it. Yeah.
Nothing's going to change there.
Just enough to stay off the chopping block.
Right. Minnesota, they got Kirk Shiraka back as their offensive coordinator.
PJ Fleck is still a really great coach.
Tanner Morgan is back for his 95th year in the Big Ten. I mean, they're going to be all right on offense. They're going to do what they do. I think very easily. You could, if they catch that magic that they caught, 2 or 3 years ago when they won 10 games, they could be really good. Already talked about Purdue. We've already talked about Wisconsin. Nebraska might be the worst team in the West, and that's sad.
It's not what anyone expected. I think a lot of people
That's
expected
sad.
Casey Thompson's transfer from Texas to be a really bright spot to that.
I mean,
Their
the
season.
problem is he is a
They
bright
got
spot.
O'Shawn Bennett from TCU as well. Like they had some good transfers, but
And the receiver from LSU was their leading receiver last year. This year, last game. But Nebraska is just so, to me, like I can get behind the coaches for all these teams, right? Pat Fitzgerald's widely considered a good coach. I think he's overrated, honestly, but he's widely considered a good coach. Brett Bielema has had success. Kirk Ferentz has had success forever. PJ Fleck's
Scott Frost should have success.
PJ Fleck's a good coach, right? Brom has shown he can have some success in the West. He's won big games. Paul Chryst is a good coach. Scott Frost is the worst coach in the Big Ten. I'm sorry. Like it's sad, honestly.
I think it's sad, but it's also a surprise. I think when Frost was first hired, 5 years ago, like that's a pretty good hire.
Well, especially he's coming home. He's coming home.
Yeah.
He's got passion for the team.
Yep.
And he was the hottest name in coaching at the time. But I just don't think he knows what he's in over his head when it comes to actually being a head coach. I think he's a good offensive coordinator. He showed that at Oregon and at UCF. I think it just worked. He got the athletes he needed there, but he could probably get better athletes at UCF than he can get at Nebraska.
Yeah.
Being in Florida.
I just thinking about Nebraska's linebacker room too, man. If they still had JoJo Doman to go with like Luke Reimer and Garrett Nelson.
Yeah.
That'd be something else. Nebraska's always had like good linebackers, it seems like too. And
they just
got decent front. I mean, they got Ty Robinson in the front too.
The problem is the both fronts got destroyed against Northwestern in the second half. I mean, Northwestern was just running it down their throats.
I think it's just the momentum game, though. You feel like you're just giving.
They're expecting to lose when they come into games. When it gets tight, you could see like their buttholes got clenched and they were just not ready to play a close game when things kind of went south for them after that onside kick. Like you only, to me, like if you're a coach, like you only attempt that onside kick if you know your team isn't gonna flinch if you don't get it.
Well, and especially because they were down for a while. I mean, they were down 17-14, and then obviously they had the touchdown run.
And then they came out like crazy in the second half, and they had all the momentum, and that just completely deflated them. And that to me, that's a sign of a pretty weak, mentally weak or mentally fragile, at least, team. And that's if you're in year 5 and your team is and you talk in a big game and you feel like your team is talented enough, because I do think they are talented, especially on offense this year. And if you're in year 5 as a coach and you're that mentally fragile, I mean, you can go through stretches as a team where, you might not win because you just get beat, but they beat themselves every game. It seems like they beat
them. And they did it last year so many times too. It's like,
exactly.
You're right. Going into year 5, this can't be happening anymore.
No, I think he's on borrowed time at this point. So.
Yeah. October 15th.
I'm telling you, that's the date.
That's the date. So, let's just quick rank these Big Ten quarterbacks. Then, I mean, who's your number 1?
Big Ten QB, Stroud.
Yeah, CJ Stroud's my number 1. Who's your number 2?
Right now I'm going to put Aiden O'Connell there.
That's my number 2. Good stuff. Yep. Go number.
I have to be high. I'm high on Purdue. Obviously, I picked them to win the West.
Number 3, is it bad for me to want to say Caden McNamara? Number 3.
I think
it's not. I almost actually think it's Talia Tagovailoa, dude.
Yeah. I can get behind whoever the Michigan starting quarterback is, though. I can get behind either of them. But I think Tagovailoa I'll probably put at number 3. Okay. His stats rank up there with anybody. He just plays really good against bad teams. And he plays very okay against good teams, which tells me I don't know. I don't know what it tells me.
Who's number 4?
Here I'll put the Michigan starting quarterback, whoever it is, either one.
McNamara
/ JJ McCarthy right there.
Okay. All right. Number 5, I actually think I want to take Spencer Petras.
Number 5, I'll take Sean Clifford.
Ooh, I almost forgot about Sean Clifford. The experience has to mean something there. Petras just, I mean, there's been videos that kind of float around of him throwing the ball this year, and it's like
he's got a very big arm.
Yes,
he's got a very big arm.
No, but I mean, we've seen that with other quarterbacks before too, like Tim Boyle. Nice arm. Too bad you don't know how to use it. Right.
Joe Milton.
That's one of the biggest ones for sure.
Yeah.
I think number 6, I kind of tend to lean towards Graham Mertz here.
I'm gonna go Peyton Thorne.
Okay, so Peyton Thorne's my next one.
Okay.
Who are you taking next?
So after that,
yeah, because I've now mentioned 2 guys here. I've mentioned Petras and Mertz, and you still not taking them, not biting.
It's tough. I don't love Petras. I'm gonna take Tanner Morgan.
Look at Minnesota. Dang, dude. All right, then I think after me forgetting about him for so long, Sean Clifford will be next for me.
Okay. So what number are we at?
I think this would be 8. I think it's 8 or 9. Or is it 9? I think it's 8. I think you have to pick your 8 yet.
Okay. I mean, if we're at 8, I'll go with who's Northwestern's QB, whoever that was.
That says a lot.
Ryan Helinski.
Yeah. Oh yeah, the Kansas transfer. Yep.
Yep. His brother was the South Carolina QB that died.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I don't like Graham Mertz, if you haven't noticed yet.
I'm seeing that. Yeah, it's all right. I am taking Peyton Thorne next.
Okay. I'll take Graham Mertz here. That's fine.
Yeah. All right. Hold on. And I'll take Tanner Morgan.
Okay, and then I'll take. I guess I'll take Petras here.
Let's see. Who do I still have? So I think now we're officially matched up. So that means that leaves.
Well, you got to take Helinski if you want to be matched up.
Oh, that's right. I do have to take Helinski. I don't know if I want to take Helinski yet. He played well. It's hard. Like now that I've actually seen him play.
It was recency bias. I'll say that right now.
Yeah, I was gonna say I wasn't super high on Helinski.
I actually enjoyed watching play this weekend for the most part. So.
Yeah, you know what? That's a fair point. Now I guess I'll go with Helinski. Yeah, after with recency bias.
Okay.
That wouldn't have been my preseason pick though.
No. I'm gonna go with Casey Thompson here because I do think he's still really talented. Yep. But again, he's fundamentally unsound. He's got a good arm, but he obviously he fell apart in the second half. But I think he'll put up some numbers in that offense for sure.
Yeah, I think that's that was my next guy too, Casey Thompson. Yep.
Okay.
I think my next. Then I'm going to take. Man, I feel like I shouldn't, but I do like. I think I like him better than the rest. I'm going to take Connor Bazelak from Indiana.
Indiana. Okay. Missouri transfer. I'll take Tommy DeVito for Illinois.
That's my next one, which basically means that Gavin Wimsatt out of Rutgers is last for me.
Stinks.
Yes.
He's not good. He's the last guy. Yeah.
Yeah, he's
the last guy too. So I'll take Bazelak and then Wimsatt.
Okay, deal. All right.
Well, then we made Wimsatt. He's legitimately a great athlete. He can run. He's
got a great body. 6'3", 220. That's a
big dude. He's got a big arm. I mean, we haven't seen anything that tells me in his short stints playing, like in mop-up duty or package duty, that he could be a quarterback yet. So I'm not overly impressed.
Let's get to Michigan's schedule here.
Yeah.
They're starting out with Colorado State, and they're starting out with this 2 QB system where Cade McNamara gets the start here. I'm sure we'll see J.J. McCarthy in this game, just like J.J. McCarthy is expected to start against Hawaii, and we'll still see McNamara in that game.
Yeah.
So, what do you expect here, Colorado State?
I mean, here's the thing. I know people are going to really look at the quarterback position and look at it and scrutinize it, and I'm going to the game, so I will certainly be doing that. But I want to see them just run. I want to see them stick with what worked last year, and then just kind of evolve as the season goes along, right? So I want to see the diverse run game. I want to see Blake Corum I want to see Donovan Edwards play a bigger role. That's the type of stuff I want to see. I want to see the offensive line dominate, because that's what they built last year, right? That's what built them to last late in the season, to where it's like, look, we always know we're going to be able to run the ball against anybody, right? The only team that stopped them running the ball was Georgia, and you know what? If that's the case, then you chalk that up to a generational defense and you move on. So that's what I want to see. And then, yeah, obviously you do want to look at things like, how the quarterbacks have improved. I want to see if, there is talk Cade McNamara has gotten a lot better. I want to see that, right? And then in the second game, I want to see JJ under the lights. That'll be interesting. Against a horrible,
121st ranked Hawaii.
I mean, they lost 63-10 to Vanderbilt last week.
Yeah, and Vanderbilt's the scrubs of the SEC. So,
and then really, I think more question marks. I mean, I think the offense is going to be really, really good. This could be one of the better offenses Michigan's ever had, at least in my lifetime, on paper at least. But the defense has some more question marks. I think it's going to be a little bit more by committee on how they apply pressure. Obviously, it needs to be. Lost what would have been first round defensive ends. So God would have thrown out his Achilles in workouts. So I think I want to see if they're a little more diverse. I think it got to a point last year where you just had to build the defense around your 2-star defensive ends, to where maybe you didn't get to a lot of the stuff that you wanted to put in. So this year, I think they're going to be a little more diverse, a little more multiple. I think it'll be a little more of an interesting defense, at least this year. They have a lot of pieces. It's just maybe they don't have like the star front.
Yeah, the Aiden Hutchinson stuff factor, right?
Right, and that's fine. That doesn't mean you don't need that.
Yeah, it's pretty generational to get like a top 5 pick pretty consistently. So just you can't always expect that. Right. It's been since Rashawn Gary since we've had like a higher end.
Thing too, yeah, I think everybody kind of expected Aiden Hutchinson to be a top 10 pick, at least probably coming into last year. Maybe not number 2 pick, but top 10 pick. No one thought David Ojabo was going to be as good as he was coming into the year.
And that's why we're talking about like Ioma that just came in. Like he could be that guy.
Could be that guy. Jalen Harrell could be a guy that takes a step like that. I mean, I like Mike Morris as a bigger defensive end, as an anchor, and can move inside. I like a lot of the pieces on this defense. I just don't know if they're going to be. They're not going to have the star power of last year, but I think they can be every bit as good by the end of it. So that's what I'm looking at. I'm looking at the defense probably more closely, but I mean, quarterback play. Yeah, I mean, you're gonna be scrutinized. So of course I'm gonna watch the QBs. I mean, but I think there's more. To me, I'm not worried about the quarterback position. I know everybody is, and everybody's talking about it, especially with the decision.
It's hard to be worried about it when you have. Other than some people argue what it does to players' quarterbacks' confidence, but like to know that you have a luxury of 2 solid quarterbacks is nice.
Exactly, and I don't think he'd be doing this if he actually thought like it was going to negatively affect the team in any way. I mean, I really don't think and maybe he's wrong about his team, but Jim Harbaugh typically has a pretty good idea of what his team is. And he seems pretty confident that he knows he's handled quarterback situations like this before. And at college, last year it was a pretty similar situation, honestly. I mean, other than JJ being a freshman, really not being ready overall. And then he's done in the NFL with the Kaepernick, Alex Smith situation. Obviously an injury to Alex Smith kind of made it a little bit easier. But they'll figure it out. They're going to figure it out. I'm not worried about it at all.
Week 3, they're playing perhaps a worse team even than Hawaii, and it's UConn.
Yep.
The only positive about UConn is Jim Mora Jr., right? I mean,
yeah,
that's about it.
Head coach. He's been around. He's at both levels, NFL and college, and had a decent couple of years at UCLA too. I mean, they're bad. They played last week too. They're pretty horrendously terrible. But I think they looked better coached. So yeah, I mean, it's not a great non-conference slate. I think Colorado State has a chance to maybe surprise some teams this year. They have 59 new players. Half of Nevada's team transferred with their coach over to Colorado State. So
I mean, they're considered a middle tier team in the MW. So I mean,
I think, and they might shock some. They might shock some teams and go on a run. Like Northern Illinois ended up being a really good team last year, right? And when Michigan played them, it was like, this team stinks, right? Western turned out to be a decent team last year. When Michigan played them, it's like, that team stinks. Washington turned out to be a really bad team last year. So that was the one where that was the Power 5 team they played, right? So
yeah.
So I don't really know. I mean, people are talking about this cupcake non-conference schedule, and it is probably one of the weaker ones we've seen in a while. But I mean, what are you going to do? You get into Big Ten play by week 4. So I'm not really. It is what it is. I think it's perfect for this team, trying to figure out the quarterback situation and also trying to kind of break in a new defense.
Even going into week 4, first Big Ten game against Maryland. I mean, Maryland's expected to be somewhere around 9th, 8th or 9th in the Big Ten.
Yeah,
altogether. They're not super at anything. They have a lot of weapons on offense, but defensively, it's still another opportunity for your quarterbacks to kind of get settled and really know who they are by week 4. And then when you get to week 5, when you go to Iowa, that's a bit more realistic.
That's going to be the test, in my opinion. I mean, I think Maryland will test them on defense and in certain ways. It's at home, which is nice. Maryland's going to be motivated because Michigan just completely ran them off the field last year at Maryland. So that'll be interesting. And I think they could make it a game for a while because they do have some guys. They've got some skill. But Michigan should handle business there. And then, going into Iowa, that'll be the test. That's going to be at Iowa. I mean, rumors, it could be a noon game, but also some rumors it could be a night game, which would suck. Please be at noon. I'm praying that game is at noon.
Iowa in Iowa night game. That's almost that's a guaranteed L. It feels like
pretty much. I mean, a great Ohio State.
The way Iowa is against really good teams, for whatever reason, night games against really good teams are just like, okay, where's this Iowa team been all year?
Right. Yep. They pull one out of their hat. So,
I mean, Iowa's expected to be a back end top 25. They're expected to be somewhere in that 20 to 30 range.
Yep. So. And that's going to be a tough one. I mean, I'm just going to put it out there. I mean, really, if they can come out of that game, if they're 5-0 coming out of that game, then I'm going to be very high on this team.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I'm expecting like a 42-3 like it was last year kind of deal.
No. I think that's going to be
that's going to be a 3 to 10 point game. I think.
Yeah, that's going to be one you're clinching, in my opinion, and that's going to tell us a lot about this team, right? Where they, because that's going to be one, in my opinion, that'll be their first close game. I hope they blow them out. I mean, that would be awesome, but I think that's going to be tough. First road game, I think that'll be the first game, and then it gets tougher from there too. So, where do they go from there? They go
back-to-back road games. They're going to Indiana.
So Indiana,
but Indiana's, to me, they're a bottom 3 Big Ten team as well, and it. Is 2019 and 2020, is that just a mirage, or are they back to the reality? Is this how it is for them now?
I mean, I think they're well coached. I like Tom Allen. I think, but I think at best they're a 7-5 school.
I think I have them 5-7 this year. So
yeah, and I think he kind of caught lightning in a bottle those 2 years, and he caught teams in weird COVID protocol year and really ran with it. And Michael Penix got healthy for a little bit and really kind of made them good for a bit, and then he didn't, and that was it. So I'm not high on Indiana. I'm just not.
So it's funny because I think the next game after that is a home game against Penn State. Yep. Yeah, but it's funny because I was looking up. I think it's UConn, right? UConn has Taquan Roberson,
they do,
who transferred out of Penn State.
They do.
And so it's unfortunate that they have Sean Clifford probably back to healthy. We don't get to beat up Taquan, but Penn State's been 11-11 in the last 2 years. So they've got to find their run game again, and I think that would really help immensely with their offense. I think their defense is still going to be as stingy as ever, but I think with this being a home game, I still feel pretty good about winning by 10 points at least.
I would say so. Obviously, Penn State's kind of a question mark to me because, like, sometimes it's like, man, where did that come from? Like, you guys looked great, and then there's other times where I'm like, they just looked like they beating their head against the wall. I expect a little bit of both from them, but yeah, I think their defense is going to be good. They've got dudes there. Joey Porter Jr. is an NFL safety, so I still like a lot of their team, especially on defense, and I do like Sean Clifford. I think I ranked him fourth
Yes,
as
you did. You did.
QB. So he's a tough quarterback. I mean, he will stand in there and just take it in the face all game, and we'll just keep getting back up and getting back up and getting back up. And that's impressive when I see stuff like that. But I still feel pretty good about a win there. I mean, at home, if it was at Penn State, that always scares me. But
Yep.
at home, I think
That's a tough place to play. One of the louder places. That's what a lot of people say. So they get to stay in Ann Arbor for their next game against Michigan State, who's expected to be a top 25 team this year.
and they get a bye week before it.
They do get the bye week before it. Yeah, this is 2 days before Halloween, or Reformation Day for me. But Jake, no one works the transfer portal like Mel Tucker does. It seems like he's done really well in his first bit of years there, but picking up Jalen Berger from Wisconsin, Jarek Broussard from Colorado. Obviously, Kenneth Walker III was from Wake Forest. Mm-hmm. So I mean, you see that he's already figured that transfer portal out really quickly as a head coach there in the Big Ten. The offensive line is the concern for Michigan State this year. It wasn't already that great last year, but then having Kevin Jarvis head out, and I think AJ Curry also went out. So I think
I think they got more. I don't think they were actually very good at all, but Kenneth Walker kind of made a lot out of nothing, and that they don't have him this year. So and I know they went out and got Jalen Berger from Wisconsin. And they're expecting big things out of him as a transfer back, and I think they got another guy from Colorado.
Yeah, Jarek Broussard.
Yeah, and he was very good. His first year at Colorado. So they got 2 transfer backs that I think are probably going to be pretty solid, but they're not Kenneth Walker. They're just not. So Kenneth Walker was probably going to be the best back. I think he's going to be the best back that was drafted last year.
So. Do you think that I think a lot of people, at least just the way Big Ten quarterbacks are, probably Peyton Thorne is one of the most, I think best scrambling quarterback in the Big Ten. I think that's at least up there between maybe him and another guy. But I think with Penix gone, I think Peyton Thorne's the best scrambler. Do you think that's going to have an adverse effect Michigan? Are they going to be able to play contain? Would you?
I mean, I'm not really worried. If Thorne kills you with his legs, then that's. I mean, I don't think he's going to kill you enough to beat you. I don't know. That game is just weird. I think Michigan's got it circled a little bit more this year.
I hope so, yeah.
They've talked about it a little bit in the offseason. Hey, we want to beat Ohio State and Michigan State in the same season. We haven't really done that. Michigan State's a weird team. I don't know what to expect from them as much. I mean, I know they have high expectations for themselves this year. They think that they're underrated. And I think, they're really high on Mel Tucker, but, Mel Tucker to me is they overachieved last year. Right. And I think a lot of that had to do with Kenneth Walker. If they don't have Kenneth Walker, they're a 7-win team last year. Right. And then Mel isn't going to get that contract and there's just not as much juice around this team. So, and good for him for going. I mean, he's a big part of why they had Kenneth Walker, right? So I'm not knocking him. Like that's part of his job is to make sure they get players that are difference makers, right? But to me, when you lose a guy like that, it's how can you keep up the momentum and keep the juice in that program without that, right? And a lot of that is going to be on Peyton Thorne. And I'm not sure. I mean, they do have Jaden Reed, who might be. He's a top 5 receiver in the Big Ten for sure. In my opinion. They did lose Jalen Naylor, who made a team today. Who did he get drafted by or picked up by?
I think he got picked up.
He didn't get drafted. I know that. He got picked up by somebody, but he made a team today.
Let's see here.
Can't remember. The Bears?
Vikings.
I knew it was an NFC North team. Yeah. So, yeah, Vikings. So he made a team today. And he was very good last year. So we'll see. But Jaden Reed is going to be a great weapon. and we'll see how that defense. The problem is their pass defense was so bad last year. They've got to get that figured out. If they can get that figured out, I think they'll have a good chance to be a 9-win team again this year. But if not, I mean, they could regress. That's a team that, to me, that has the most, like, in the East at least, they're the most variable in my opinion. I could end up being wrong, but like they could win 6 or 7 games and they could win 10 games. Right? There's that much of a difference depending on how this kind of all how they cut it, how it all kind of works out for them.
Well, it's interesting. Just 2 years ago, I was like, this team's going to win 3 games, and then they came out and won like 9. So
yeah,
I don't know. They are an anomaly every single year though. Just never
one way or the other, because there's sometimes
well coached. I think that for
be...
whatever reason with D'Antonio and Tucker, they seem to make the most out of talent that on paper doesn't look as good. So it's harder to kind of gauge where they're going to finish.
Yep, and we get to watch them Friday against Western, so that'll be interesting. See how they look. Yeah, I don't know. So then Michigan goes to Rutgers.
Yep. Yeah.
That'll be a win.
I was going to say Greg Schiano is one of the best coaches in the Big Ten, but they're just
you
can only do so much. It's the East is so deep.
Yep.
I don't see it happening.
They're too talent deficient. They don't have the quarterbacks to keep them in it right now. Greg Schiano can be a good coach, but to me, Michigan is at another level right now than that. And but they do have to go there, and we'll see. But we'll see. It's later in the year than they've played Rutgers in the recent years. So that could mean that could be a little different. That Rutgers could be going in a complete tailspin at that point. I could totally see that, or they could be kind of treading water there and hanging with it. So we'll see. And then they
Nebraska. They're home against
Nebraska.
We probably won't see Scott Frost on those sidelines. Not in November, not mid-November. I
would be very surprised unless they just let him ride out the season for whatever reason. I would be pretty surprised at this point. I know it's
after they just lost
after a loss.
That week 0 game they played against Northwestern was just reminiscent of last year. They lost a lot of close games last year, including against Michigan. Yep. That game went back and forth for a while, and then losing another close game against Northwestern, which is an upset, obviously.
To me, it just tells me that nothing changed. Like I know they changed coordinators, but then Scott Frost, it's like he threw his offensive coordinator under the bus in the press conference after the game. It's like, dude, you hired him in the offseason. Like, what do you mean? Like, that's your fault then if you don't think he did a good job.
And you have veto power. As a head coach.
You're the head coach. Exactly.
Yes. So same with the onside kick. Don't be blaming the special teams coach.
Right. That is you, dude. Like you made the
call. You're not Braden Coombs just calling stuff out of the blue,
Yeah.
It's not.
I didn't love that, his answers. So to me, he's just kind of a dead man walking there in the spot. I mean, they could figure it out. They could really turn it around and maybe he is on the sideline for that game, but I don't think he will be, and I think that's a pretty easy win for Michigan, honestly, late in the year. And then they got Illinois. They go to Illinois, or is Illinois at home?
Illinois is a home game. Yep.
Illinois is a home game. That should be a win.
And, like we talked about Illinois being probably towards you're a little higher on Illinois than I am this year, but.
I wouldn't say – I would still expect them to be towards the bottom, but I just think I can get behind them being a better team. I just think the West as a whole is better. Overall, I just don't –
I mean, they've got really good running backs this year. I just don't. They're going to have to carry the load because I don't like anyone else.
Yep, I like Chase Brown a lot, but I don't like. I like their offensive line for the most part. They're big dudes, but I don't love the quarterback play. Art Sikowski's their backup. He stinks, and they don't. I only like one of their receivers. So, and then they play the game.
Yep, the Ohio State at the Horseshoe.
And if it was at home again, I'd consider picking them to win it right now. But Ohio State right now, I think Vegas has early odds and they're already a 10-point favorite. And we'll see how Ohio State looks against Notre Dame. And I think they're going to kill Notre Dame. I know I already said it, but I don't know. Right now, I can't say that they're going to win, but I think it should be a good game. It could be a war. I mean, I don't think we went through the schedule right here. I can't think of a game up until this game that I would pick the Michigan to lose right now.
I mean, other than at Iowa, if it's the late game.
At Iowa I wouldn't even put it as a toss-up, though. I'd still pick Michigan to win. Michigan's still a better team than that team, right? Michigan is a better.
Yeah, they
team than every
are.
single-
It's just
they're
I
a
was
better
fluky
football
like
team,
that.
I would say, than every single team they're going to play until Ohio State.
I was just fluky like that, so you just never
Right.
know. But
Right. So you got, I mean, really, you've just got you just got bad memories from things. Same with the Michigan State game.
Is Ohio State? I know they brought in Oklahoma State's coordinator to call defensive plays, and like, do they bring the Big 12 defense with them? That'd be great.
That'd be cool. No, I think so. I mean, I think by the time they play Michigan, they'll have the defense mostly figured out. I think, like I said, I think early on, I don't think they're actually going to be all that good on defense. They've got a lot to figure out. I mean, by all accounts, it's going to take a while, but they've got some time. Obviously, against Notre Dame, that's a test, but I think Notre Dame's overrated. I think Notre Dame's got a bunch of flash right now. They've got a new head coach. They're recruiting at a crazy high level. I'm not sold on them right now. So we'll see, obviously, and that's Saturday. That's probably the biggest game of the weekend. What other games we got this weekend? There's a few. Should we go? We should probably start pick six again here pretty soon.
Oh, that's a good point. Is that time of year?
I mean, we can do it right now. There's some games.
I've done no prep for pick six.
All right, I'll pick 6 games here real quick.
All right.
We'll go college football week 1. Yeah, there's some good games. We got Oregon and Georgia.
Give me Georgia.
3 versus 11 in the Chick-fil-A kickoff. I will take Georgia as well, but I think it'll be a decent game. This is a good one. Cincinnati against Arkansas.
Give me Arkansas.
Arkansas is a 6-point favorite currently.
How about Florida State LSU?
That's an interesting game.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is that Monday? Or no? That game is nope. I see it now. Yep, I see it. I don't know. I'm gonna lean LSU.
Yeah, I'm thinking LSU.
But I'm not convinced Brian Kelly's gonna be that great this year.
He seems just so faux, but
he is fake. He's a fake.
Yeah, I'm taking LSU though over Florida State as well. Okay. The other game I noticed was Clemson at Georgia Tech.
There's also, if you look at it, there's another one that should be a good game.
Notre Dame, Ohio State.
That one. But Utah and Florida. Utah's only a 7-point favorite, and they have to go to the Swamp. In fact, ESPN matchup predictor has Florida at 52.1%.
Still taking Utah. I'll take Utah still, but I'm
going to take Florida in that game. I'm going to take the upset.
All right.
And then what do we got? Ohio State.
I see it. I know Clemson, Georgia Tech's a decent game, but I feel like most people are probably still leaning Clemson pretty heavy in that.
Clemson there. Let's pick Notre Dame, Ohio State. You seem higher on Notre Dame than me, so.
Yeah, it's still in Ohio State though. But because you were willing to be different for one, I'll take an upset for Notre Dame.
Notre Dame on an upset. All right, I'll take Ohio State. I think they're going to win, but they're 17-point favorites. That's kind of nuts.
Then I need some high praise if Notre Dame pulls this off.
You will get some high praise. I will bestow that upon you. Was that 6?
I'm pretty sure we had 6.
That was pretty good. There's some good games. I think the problem is a lot of these high-profile games, and this right now, I mean, the lines tell you, and this kind of circles all the way back to those top-end teams, right? There's only 5 or 6 teams that we can even think of considering putting in the college football playoff. And even the top end games, like a 3 versus 11 game, that's a 17-point spread for Georgia. A 2 versus 5 game, 17-point spread for Ohio State. And then you get to a 7 versus an unranked team, and that's a 3-point spread. So that's a little crazy.
I mean, if previous years have ever shown anything, it's very difficult to predict. It's almost never the same top 10 ever.
No.
I mean, sometimes the top 3 or 4 stays pretty close, but
well, I think there's only been how many teams have made the college football playoff? There's only there's not that many.
9.
You had two new teams last year. So you had Michigan and Cincinnati last year. You've had Alabama. So you've got Michigan, Cincinnati, Alabama,
Georgia,
LSU,
Clemson,
Georgia,
Ohio State.
Clemson, Ohio State.
Has Notre Dame yet or Texas?
No, they didn't make the playoff.
Did Texas A&M make it once?
No.
What?
I have
LSU.
7 so far.
LSU.
I had them on there, so I have 7.
Oh, did you? Oh, it might only.
Oklahoma.
I bet there's like 8. I bet there's probably one more we can't think of.
Oklahoma.
Yeah, Oklahoma. Yeah, there's sheesh. Not a lot of variety.
Right. So that tells you that's the state of college football right now. And that's, I guess, a bigger question. We could be if we were bored and we needed content one week, we could definitely talk about, like, is this good for college football? Like, is it too
Yeah,
top?
I think we may have talked about the parity in college football before.
Like, is it a good thing? Like, is there enough parity in college football? Like, there's not a thing. Like, you don't get to college basketball. Like, you don't get upsets in college football like you get in college basketball, like the NCAA tournament and things like that. So I don't know. I don't know whether it's good. I think that's the only 8 though. Maybe Oregon. Did they make it one year?
Yeah, and I'll have to probably do some double checking on that.
I want to double check on that. But yeah, I don't. Oh, Michigan State made it one year.
Oh, they did, and they got killed. Yeah, okay.
Yep. So that's 9.
Okay. Well, yeah. So I guess we'll follow up next week, and we're gonna do our NFL preview as well.
Yeah.
Obviously, Isaiah just had a baby, so we'll see what happens there if he's able to sneak on
Maybe
with
not.
a
That's all right.
1.5-week-old. I doubt it, but yeah, it'll be fun. Anyway, so we'll make it work, and we'll update you with our pick 6 that we just kind of jumbled together real quick today. But it'll be a good first week of football.
We'll have it a little more prepared. We can then we can discuss Michigan if we're ready to throw Cade McNamara under a bus, or we're ready to.
I hope we're not after these games. These are cupcake games. We cannot be. I don't know how it's going to be telling, but I guess we'll find out.
Yeah. Yep.
So it'll be fun. We'll see you next week, guys.
Yep.